welcome back to another episode of Very Selfish Women. And I'm going to start off by saying hello, I'm Lisa Russell, this is Alana Sukit, and this is Sierra Gertzen joining us today. So I also want to start us off by saying I was totally nixed with the new idea that I had for our name being Super Selfish Women instead of Very Selfish. So apparently we are continuing to be very selfish women. And the reason we call ourselves that is because we are all about helping other women to self-care their way to self-love. So the whole idea here is that we tend to be wrapped up in self-sabotage and self-loathing and being self-mad at ourselves all the time. And so helping women to move over to a place where they can really embrace ourselves with self-love. And so the way that we do that is through self-care. And as you can tell, we're saying the word self a lot. So there we go, selfish women. So welcome to this episode. Today we want to talk about how during the holiday season can we go about enjoying all the delicious foods that are out there. Is it possible to indulge without overdoing it, without overindulging? And so we kind of want to have a conversation about that today. And the answer is yes. Spoiler alert. So I'm going to ask, both of you guys, I've asked you to think about how do you handle the holidays? What do you do when there is, like this last Saturday evening, we hosted a big Christmas party at our house for our amazing team. And husbands had a whole house full, and there was a table laden with all the delicious Christmas goodies. So I'll tell you in a minute how I handled that after the party. But what do you typically do, Alana? Starting with you, what do you do about holiday baking, holiday goodies, all the deliciousness, and what kinds of foods are your jam?
Yeah, so actually a lot like Sierra, I'm not a big sweets eater.
It kills me.
Other than baked goods. I do love baked goods, so this time of year is a little bit more difficult, and that is also why I don't bake. It's one, messy, and two, I will eat it until it's gone. Maybe not in one sitting, but every day until it's gone, so it's just not a good idea for me to keep it around. So one thing, and I've been telling people a lot lately, because 'tis the season, of course, is I wait until I am wonderfully gifted with some sort of treat, and it happens every year. I know, guaranteed, I at least get one cookie plate, but no matter what, there's always, either from my mother-in-law, chocolates, something. It comes around, Christmas party, some way, somehow, it comes into my life, so that is when I decide that I'm going to enjoy whatever it is, if I like it. If not, then it's not worth it. But if it's something that I like, then I'm like, the fates have brought this upon me. I may have this, and I enjoy it, and then I move on. And that's kind of my plan that I do this time of year.
Boy. Excellent. Sierra, what do you do when it comes to all the goodies? Yeah, and tell us what kind of foods are your jam?
So I'm actually a lot like Alana in a sense of I really just save it for like the one thing that I want. So I'm like, okay, if we do get a cookie tray, I'm gonna pick out the one cookie I want, have my cookie, and then my husband can have the rest, whoever else. But I'm not as big on baked goods. So what I like to do, I actually like to bake. So I do all the baked goods, make them for people, and then push them away and give them to other people.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm trying to decide what are my favorite things at Christmas time. I'd probably have to go with, I don't know what we usually get that. I do like those peanut butter blossom cookies. And you know, with the Hershey Kiss in the middle.
Oh,
Those are my one thing. So if I get those on a cookie tray, I'm going to eat those bad boys and then.
So are you more of a savory treat, like you like the chips and the dips?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And so I have to, actually, Alana and I were talking about that. I'm like, I have to stay away from the chips and the dips because I will eat them every day.
So, point being that none of us here are perfect. So we do, when we work with our clients, we talk a lot about women are typically either sweet or they're savory. I'm very sweet. But typically we kind of gravitate towards foods that are either very sweet or very salty and savory. So one of my sisters, it's kind of funny, when I was growing up, she'd be like, I had something sweet, so now it's time for something salty. And that's a thing too, where people really like that combination. And so you're hearing from both of these women that they have a plan for themselves. And that's probably the most important thing that we want to convey to people is you have to get to know yourself and what you can handle and what you can't handle. And that this whole wellness journey and weight loss and fitness, it's all about getting to know yourself and putting systems in place. So I am different than Alana and Sierra, and that I myself have overcome and am still overcoming a lot of food issues for real. It took me a long time to lose my weight, and I've been able to maintain for many years, but I still have food issues, and I acknowledge that, and I actually may never get over all of my food issues, but I have a very big tendency to binge and to really overindulge in one sitting. And so I've had to really put some systems into my life to help myself curb that. And so, for instance, I was telling you about the holiday party that we had this last Saturday. We had a really nice time together, and the next day I knew my husband was going to be going out of town for the entire week. And there were leftover little mini chocolate chip delicious cookies and leftover dark chocolate sea salt caramels, all these very, very sweet and things that actually really are my jam. And so I set a few of them aside. Literally, I set 4 caramels aside so that I could have a couple, and the rest on Sunday afternoon, I literally put them into my garbage can. And one of the other things that was left over from the party was a container of smoked salmon dip. And my good friends know I don't do seafood in any really way, shape, or form. So I put all the sweet stuff in my garbage can, and I plopped out that salmon dip onto the top of it before I took it out to the garbage can. My friends, is it too much and TMI to tell you that yes, I have gone back into the garbage can to fish out treats in the past when I really was struggling with food issues. So I just set myself up for success. I don't want to be the woman who's fishing sea salt caramels out of the garbage can at midnight. So that's just one of the things that I do. Normally, I would consider giving those things away, but I knew that there was a lot of opportunity this week for me to be me, Netflix, and all the goodies home alone, and that's not a good combination for me. So I think the whole point here is that you have to be wise about this, and it's different for each one of us, sort of the strategies and the tips that we have for you. The most important thing is to set yourself up for success, and even the word success is different for each one of us. For me, not having a binge where I eat all the brownies in one sitting, that's a victory for me. So I will do whatever it takes to set myself up to be victorious. And then you have to claim your victories. The fact that you're able to give the things away, and the fact that you're able to sort of ration out your goodies and qualify your goodies, I am only going to invest my extra calories in the things that I really, really like, is very wise.
Yes, and to remember that whether it makes its way through your body or straight to the trash can, it is not nutritional foods. Chocolates, your sweets, all of that. You know, I think a lot of times, obviously, it was made with love, it was given with love, and people kind of, attached to it. And to be able to make peace with it and say, thank you, this is lovely, but my body does not need this. Mm-hmm. And to be able to let it go, whether you bought it yourself and you don't want the leftovers, or somebody gave it to you, because even if you do gift it to others, doesn't mean others need it as well. Nobody really needs that unless it's something that, you know that they don't get very often and would very much enjoy. But for the most part, just let it go. Throw it away, get rid of it, whatever, and to let that guilt go. Appreciate the sentiment, but that does not mean that you need to eat these sentiments. Just be done with it. So
I think that's a good point. Accept the gift, say thank you, have a little if you want some, but I think real wisdom there in saying keeping the caramels around is not worth it because there are starving children in Africa. Point being, yes, the nutritional value is very low on that. Aside from the fact, I don't want to contribute to somebody else eating a bunch of junk. I just don't. That's why I literally throw things away. I'm not going to feel guilty for that. It's either going to end up in the trash or it's going to end up on these hips right here. So not feeling guilty about that, about letting it go, either passing it along to, a lot of times I'll take leftover candy, Halloween time specifically, send it to our church's youth group until I was asked, please don't do that. We don't need to sugar up all these kids all the time. So whatever it might be, setting yourself up for success, I think is probably the key. Do you have any parting wisdom?
I
No?
don't think so.
Okay.
You guys covered it all.
Yeah, to always remember moderation. Don't deprive yourself, have a plan. Go into that Christmas party giving yourself what you know you're gonna have. If it's 2 cookies or whatever it is, a beverage or the cookies. Kind of going into it and knowing ahead of time what you're allowing yourself really alleviates a lot of that guilt, I feel like, in the moment of trying to make that decision of just like, okay, this is what it is. It is what it is.
You know, actually, okay, so I do have one more thing to add, which is exactly what you said, sort of making an agreement with yourself on what you're gonna do going in and sticking to that. When you're able to do that, it's incredibly empowering to sort of make a date with yourself, keep the date with yourself. Same thing with when we talk about exercise, which we're gonna talk a lot about next week. I think that giving yourself sort of a treat allowance and having that balance and moderation. In my case, I have no shame in telling you that I have really struggled to moderate myself and have 2 cookies. So what I do is I remove that temptation to eat 12 cookies. And so that's what works for me. We would love to hear some of your stories and how you handle the holidays, and hopefully these have been some good tips for you. We'd love to hear from you, and as always, we'll see you next week. And we are, of course, very selfish women. Oh, someone turn off that camera, please.
You guys are so funny.